Am I on? I am. Good morning. Are y'all shy or are you fake shy? Fake shy, good morning. You can give me a big good morning. Let me get set my things up. Who was that? That's what oh, okay, and you raised your hand proud. I like that, okay. I am super, super humbled and privileged to be able to be in this space with you because anytime I get to commune with people younger than me, and I'm 35, I feel like y'all are the future. So I'm like, yes, y'all got the juice. Y'all really have the juice. Thank you for the introduction, Amber. But I'm excited to see what you create and what you make possible in the future. And I'm excited to chop it up with y'all this morning. But before we dig in, of course, let's get social. If you're on the gram or Twitter, please find me. And more importantly, if there's anything that resonates with you throughout this conversation today, hashtag not just NESTFlight, but also Become Who You Are or Team A Book. And we'll talk about the book in just a minute. Cool? Yeah. Sound good? Yeah. Y'all still with me? Yeah. Okay, I like to get rowdy. I'm from New York, so you don't have to be shy. If you are feeling a little shy, that's okay. Let your neighbor be the one to speak super loud for you, but we're gonna get super warmed up in this space. But before we do, I wanna share a short video to help give context to the conversation that we're gonna have today. Oh, there should be sound. All right, it's a metaphor. If you don't speak up for yourself, it's easy to get swept away. And I was actually a really, really shy kid growing up. I was an introvert. Though I was quiet, I was always
okay, Jacob.
So
can y'all all hear that?
Different people's communication styles, what made them tick, what pisses people off, what makes them happy, what gets them to really do. Over time, there were these opportunities that presented themselves. And if you don't learn to speak up for yourself, others will. And you may not like the story that they're telling about you. I found my voice through being present. I think there's something really special about showing up, right? In our lives, so much fear comes up from the things we're afraid to do or afraid to try. And for me, owning my voice came from feeding my curiosity. You're owning your voice to leave your mark. It's imagine you're here for 75 years and you never spoke up for anything you believed in, or you never shared an idea that you thought could really change something. And I really think that in being here, if we're going to be here, there is a necessity to add value somewhere. And if you're not adding, you're subtracting. So in owning your voice, you create an opportunity for yourself to really leave a mark once you're gone. Okay. That's my time. We're done here. Go be great today. I'm just kidding. So as you can imagine, I think a lot about the word legacy. And if you look it up in the dictionary, you'll come up with a bunch of different definitions. But I like to think about it as the impact that your actions, your presence, and your body of work make, not just on the world, but on the people around you. So how many of you care about legacy? All right, make some noise if you give a damn about the legacy you leave behind. Okay. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I knew y'all were fake shy. This is good. This is good. That's very important because the world needs your story now. And today, as we think about this theme of what it means to become who you are, we're going to explore what kind of stories it requires of us to be able to own your voice, to really leave your mark. And the first lesson that I want y'all to be thinking about is you got to be able to roll with the punches, right? So whether the sound on the video works so you don't know what you're going to do next, that life at work requires you to just roll with the punches, right? And the world needs your story right now. So I want y'all to close your eyes for a second. And I know it's dark, so I can't really see if you have your eyes closed, so I'm trusting that you're going to close your eyes. And with your eyes closed, I want you to think about the stories that you consume every day. Whether you get your news from CNN or the gram, like some of us find our news on Instagram feeds, or Twitter or the newspaper. Think about all of the different types of stories you're consuming on a day-to-day. From climate change and climate change denial, to 45, because I won't say his name, to DACA, to still having to build a case for why Black lives and Black bodies matter in 2018. I want you to think about all of those stories. The ones that infuriate you, the ones that get you excited to create some kind of change, the ones that motivate you, the ones that humble you. I want you to hold those stories in your mind. Now I want you to open your eyes. You and I know the world that we live in. It's an intense time. It seems like a moment that's filled with a lot of uncertainty, sometimes fear, and a little bit of darkness as well. And for a lot of people, that could be scary as hell. And they're like, I'm not trying to be president this time. But for us, for people like you and I, it's a moment to rise to the occasion. And that's why your stories really matter in the context of the world that we live in now. So as y'all think about the different jobs that you're trying to take on and the careers that you're looking to build for yourself, before you can enter the workforce or innovate new systems or create change, it's so important that first you have command and confidence in the stories that you're telling about yourself, because we are the culture. Am I right? Yeah, good. So before we get into stories, and the stories that y'all gonna be saying today, because I know you're gonna be engaging with a bunch of potential employers, with each other, I wanna pose a quick challenge, and we're gonna do 2 challenges. The first challenge you'll have 90 seconds for. So I want everybody to find a partner, preferably someone you didn't come here with. I heard the, oh man, damn, I was gonna pick. Nope. The idea today is to get you out of your comfort zone. Everybody have a partner. You don't have to change your seat. You are going to have 90 seconds each. And in that 90 seconds, you're gonna share a story. Y'all all right? I like to give it the silence. I hear that. You're gonna have 90 seconds to share a story about your best concert experience, or, they're like, oh, okay, this is kind of all right. Or a hilarious childhood moment, or your favorite food memory. I know this is hard to choose from. You're not doing all of the stories. You're choosing one story, and you'll have 90 seconds each. So here's how this is gonna work. I'll hold up a 1 when you've got a minute left, a 3 when you've got 30 seconds left, and a non-violent fist to let you know that your time has elapsed, okay? Don't switch until I give you the green light. You have 90 seconds each. Does anybody have any questions? I'm gonna take that as a no. All right, here's the best part. Decide who's going first. Oh, you snooze, you lose. See how quickly people are like, you're up first. All right. First storyteller, are you ready? First storyteller, are you ready? First storyteller, are you ready? That's what I'm talking about. Your time starts now. Yes, thank you. One more minute. Thirty seconds. And time. Oh, that was good. All right. I like to call that the warm-up lap. I saw some people were like, I'm not giving you a 90-second story. You're getting 30 seconds, and then I'm done. Who finished in under 90 seconds? Okay. I saw y'all. Y'all wrapped it up. I saw y'all. Who needed more than 90 seconds? Okay. All right. I saw a lot of interesting things happening. People were laughing. I saw, girl, what? You know, I see the excitement, the enthusiasm, right? I want you to think about that before we switch, because we tell these stories about an experience or an event, and it's easy. But when we tell stories about ourselves, we button up, we get really serious, we just start to like list stuff, right? But I want you to show up with that same enthusiasm throughout the day today. Maybe not as much hand action, because I know some of y'all were like really leaned in, or I mean, I guess it depends on the person that you're talking to. Maybe yes to that much hand action. But I want you to think about how you are pulling the different details of the story together as you're going through it. And for those of you who needed less than 90, cool. For those of you who needed more time, it's something to consider. When we're in conversation with people, we're not thinking, all right, I got like 60 seconds to respond. But you've all been in a meeting or a conversation where you had to introduce yourself as a group, and there's always that one person who gives like the 5-minute introduction, right? And you're looking like someone tap them on the shoulder and tell them like, wrap it up, right? Time is important. So I want y'all to think about that as you switch. My second storyteller, are you ready? Yes. My second storyteller, are you ready? Yes. See, y'all like, why you gotta be so rowdy? Because joy is important, and I want your joy to fill this room. Second storyteller, your time starts now. Thirty seconds. Just kidding, I meant 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. Seconds. And time. Yes, y'all look good on the time. I hear someone's like, I gotta wrap up these last couple seconds. Wait, this is when it gets good. And this crew up front, y'all, I wanna hear what stories y'all are sharing up here, because it's getting serious. How many of you finished in under 90 seconds? Okay, you can raise your hand high, it's all right. Who needed more time? Hell yeah. Like, what was your story about? Oh, ooh. Who was it? That was your first favorite or first concert? Oh, okay, we gotta talk. You gotta put me on. We gotta talk later. All right, so that's your first challenge, right? And as you can see, the people that you connected with, right? The type of communication that succeeds best is the type that evokes an emotion. You make someone smile, you make someone laugh, you make them happy, you make them sad. That's where people really lean in. So communication is always an opportunity to make an emotional connection, which of course makes a human connection. And for those of you who might be talking to each other for the first time, you know off that one exchange or those two exchanges whether you want to talk to that person again or not. Is that correct? You're like, all right, you cool? And you're like, I hope you enjoy the conference, but I'm cool. But it's all communication creates space for us to establish relationships with each other. So I want you to think about that as you're thinking about that first prompt. Again, what if you show up with that same enthusiasm when you're telling the story about your favorite concert as you do when someone's like, tell me about yourself? How many of you feel the same way about both conversations? You're like, Raise your hand if you like to talk about yourself. All right, we got like 3.5 hands up, right? So I'm going to make it a little bit more complicated for you because, well, this is what we're here for. We're here to grow. And because you're going to do this so many times throughout the day, so we're going to switch prompts. This time, you're only going to get 60 seconds. I know. It's the best. And this time, I want you to share a story about you. And I want you to answer these 3 questions in any order. You don't have to say it in the same order that I put the slides up. Whatever feels good to you. Who are you? What are you excited about in this season? And I don't necessarily mean fall. I mean, in this season of your life, you might be transitioning to college or going to the next level or starting a new internship. What are you most excited about in this season? And why did you say yes to NESTFlight? I know I said yes, so I can build with the future. But why did you say yes to NESTFlight? So 60 seconds makes it a little bit more challenging. But it's exactly the same approach that you took to thinking about the prompt. You're like, all right, concert, I'm gonna tell them about who I went with, how I got the tickets, what the experience was like, right? So I want you to marinate on these 3 prompts for a second, and then we're gonna do 2 rounds again. We'll have first storyteller, second storyteller. You'll have 60 seconds each. I'll hold up a 3 when you're down to 30 seconds, and the non-violent fist will reemerge to let you know that your time has elapsed. Does that sound good? Does that sound good? I like that person who's just like yelling it back at me. Any questions? Okay, decide who's going first this time. Like, oh, look how quick the hand goes. Like, you're up. Okay, before you start, first storyteller, your time starts now. Thirty seconds. And time. How was that, y'all? Good. Yeah. The volume is different, low. It's like murmur. I saw some of you just looking off, check the list. Who am I? Check. Okay, what's the next one? What are you excited about? Check. How many of you took that approach? It's okay, raise your hand if you took that approach. You're like, okay, check, we out. All right. If that was uncomfortable for you, raise your hand or give me a little head nod. You don't have to raise your hand. Okay, I counted the head nods, okay. What was different about this story versus the previous story? It wasn't funny. It wasn't funny. Okay, what else? It was harder to tell. Why?
Because I wasn't sure how to answer some of the questions.
Okay, he said he wasn't sure how to answer some of the questions, so it was harder to tell. Anybody else felt that? Yeah, it's okay to say yes to it. Who are you is a hard-ass question, and it's a big question. You're like, who am I? I've been here for like 18, 19, 20 years. I am many things, right? Okay, anyone else who enjoyed that and was like, oh, that was easy? Yeah? Why? What made it easy for you?
I guess I already knew what to say.
Oh, I like that. It just came easy. You about that life. Okay, cool. I like that. Anyone else? No pressure. All right. Second, oh, yes.
I just know the answer because I've been thinking about this question for a long
Ah, I like that. I know the answers because I've been thinking about these questions for a long time. A lot of time we don't get to spend a lot of time thinking about these questions, but we get asked them regularly. What were you going to say?
I actually think some people don't know the answer to this question, so it's hard for them.
Ooh. She actually thinks some people don't know the answer to these questions yet, so it's hard for them. Yeah. It's kind of triggering sometimes for you to ask someone a big question that they haven't taken the time out to marinate on today. And we're going to dig a little deeper into that in my time with you this morning. But first, second storyteller, are you ready? I love this. I love how you're like, I'm out. Get her out of here. You ready? Are you ready?
Yes!
Oh, yes. Was that you again? I like it. I like how your levels, I'm going to bring you up here at some point today. This is going to be good. Your time starts now. Thirty seconds. And time. How many of you finished in under 60 seconds? Okay, who needed more time? I like the proud looks on your face. You're like, that was me, nailed it, under 60, got it, my intro is tight. Okay, how'd y'all feel about that second round for the people who got a chance to do it this time? Really good? What felt good? Yeah, it's nice. It's hard to go first. Second is cool though. You're like, oh, okay, now I can do this. You gave me a little jump start. I know how I want to tweak this. Anyone else? Yep.
Being older, I think I know who I am, but the excitement and the reason I said yes were a little more difficult.
Mm-hmm. Being older, you know who you are, but the excitement and the reason you said yes is difficult. Because the older you are, there are many, many seasons to your life. And you're like, oh, wait, what season am I in right now, right? Am I in a transition space? There's a lot more to think about. Anyone else? Yep. And then I'll come over that way.
Yeah, I was thinking about what I was going to say, and because I went second, I had some time to do that. But then as soon as I started saying it, it kind of transformed into another creature.
You thought you knew what you were going to say, and when you started talking, it transformed into another creature. I like that. Was it a better creature?
I think so.
Okay. That's an important part about communication, too. Sometimes we memorize the thing that we want to say, but we're malleable as people. We are changing every day, so it's important to let your introduction grow new wings when it's necessary. What were you going to say?
So for the question for who are you?
Yeah.
For me, I guess I still don't know who I am, but I think that's a process that you take through your lifetime. And also the reason I guess I'm here for is to find out who really I am, or to find out who I really am.
Yes, you came to the right place. Was that snaps that I heard for that? Okay, I see what wavelength y'all are on today. That's good. He said he's still figuring out who he is, and he thinks that's a process, and that's so true. I was having a conversation with one of my colleagues, and he was like, when you get married, you're essentially marrying like 3 different people if you stay together in a lifetime, because he's like, my wife has changed like every 10 years. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that's important to keep in mind when I'm thinking about if I want to get married, right? But you are not the person you were when you were 5. You're not the person you were when you were 15. There may be some different parts of you that have stayed, but you are constantly evolving. So I want you to raise your hand if you feel good about that intro anytime someone asks you to introduce yourself, you kill it, knock it out of the park. Raise your hand if that's you. Okay. Okay, I found my mentors in the space. Okay, this is good. Raise your hand if that's not you, if sometimes you struggle to bring the pieces together, if it's challenging for you to introduce yourself when people are like, tell me about you, who are you? I'm gonna guess that's everybody else. Okay, look around. No, keep your hand up. My hand is up for a reason too. Keep your hand up, look around. You're not alone because it's a challenging question. In fact, tell me about yourself isn't even a question. Right? It's a command. Tell me about you, all of the things. It's like, but what direction do you want me to go? I can tell you about my hobbies. I can tell you about like what I ate for dinner last night. There's a lot of different directions you can go, right? And I had the same challenge. For me specifically, in the last 15 years of my career, I've worked over 20 jobs in over 5 different industries and have started 2 businesses of my own. So the pressure that I felt, the immense pressure when I talk to people about what I do was anxiety-inducing. It was like, how do I explain how I pivoted from education to project management or from radio to communications? There were so many different nuances and layers. And I've done a ton of different jobs. I worked at a contracting firm doing project management in New York City. We built amazing homes from the ground up for residential folks living on the West Side, from townhomes and houses to stores like Crate and Barrel. I've also worked at, and this might look familiar to some of you, Trader Joe's. And I worked at Trader Joe's because every time I went in, everybody looked so damn happy. And I was just like, something magical is happening here. You work at Trader Joe's?
I work at Whole Foods.
Everybody was so happy when I went to Trader Joe's though, right? And so I was like, okay, there's something special about not just the joy. I wasn't just like, I want to work where everybody's happy, but the customer service element. So I worked at Trader Joe's because I wanted to learn how to best serve customers. And what better place to get possibly screamed at or someone get disgruntled with you than at the grocery store. And the 10% discount and the benefits were also nice, right? I have managed independent artists. That's me when I had hair on the far end there. Helping them develop their careers and make a business out of music. I've traveled the country with artists. I have taught entrepreneurship and leadership at a college in Ohio, right? But every job that I've ever had wasn't just to have a job. It was a place that I knew would help me blossom. It was a place that I knew would help me explore my passions more deeply, to figure out what my passions were, to fail, to figure out what I wanted to do next. And I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So in every place I worked, I was building the skills so that I could go out on my own. At the contracting firm, it was to learn project management. I worked with 2 women small business owners who were in business together for over 30 years. So I worked with people who I could learn from and who I could grow with. When I struck out on my own for the first time, I started an education and music concert tour with my homies. And I realized through a lot of my work that my passion was around 3 areas: education, culture, and music. And for me, I tried teaching in the classroom. It's one of the many jobs I've done. I taught in elementary level, middle school, high school, and college. I did enough to know that it was not for me long-term to be in a classroom, but I have all the love and respect for educators who raise us up every day. So me and my homies were like, how do we get students excited about figuring out what they want to do and applying that to higher education? So we put on a concert tour. We traveled around the country for 3 years. We went to 10 states. We reached 20,000 students. And we would produce concerts in people's high schools. So like, how do we turn your auditorium into Madison Square Garden? But it wasn't just us hosting concerts. We picked a student ambassador team. We would teach them how to plan a concert. They would hold auditions so that students from their student body could be opening acts. And we had 2 headlining singers who closed it out. But we're like, nah, that's not enough, that's not enough. So we put on workshops during the concerts too, to help students think about how do they figure out what their dreams are, and then how do they create a path to actually live those dreams. I'll show y'all a quick video of what it looked like to give you a taste, if we're good on sound. Can y'all clap it up for Jacob, please? I say that because when Jacob asked me to do this conference, I was like, yes. And Jacob is the perfect example of someone who's willing to roll their sleeves up and do every single job. So I think one of the most important things that Jacob reminds me of is like, you can never be too big for any job, right? Some people are like, I'm not taking no trash out. You better take that damn trash out. I don't send those emails. Like, that's not what I do. Like, never be above any job because you never know where the one step can lead you. And it's all about being a team player, like handling sound.
We're ready.
Thank you, Jacob. So I'll give y'all a quick preview of what the experience looked like when we were on the road, and then we'll transition from there, if it works out for us.
Mustache is looking. I'm feeling oh so silky shimmery. It's been how long? Always forcing people. What's up, y'all? Y'all ready? That was so cute. Oh, all right, let's do this.
So I won't show the full video because it's like a 4-minute video. But sometimes when an idea starts off this small in your mind and you just have the courage to act on it, you'll be surprised what happened. That was a concert that we did in Delaware, but we started with 5 concerts. The first one was at a middle school I was working at in East Harlem. The second one was at a school like 4 blocks away, and like 10 people came to the concert. 10, including the opening acts. So sometimes you'll fail at it, but it doesn't mean don't try, because that tour led me to my next phase, right? And for a long time, when I was thinking about all the jobs that I was doing and all the different hats that I'd worn, I thought people would judge me and think I was doing the most. So I was always hesitant when people asked what I do. But what I realized was that all of those skills that I was acquiring over 15 years weren't just preparing me for work, they were preparing me for my purpose, right? And so in order to do our best in the workplace or find that dream career, we have to become who we are. And that's what we're going to talk about more today when we dig into the process of the book. All those quirks, those passions, those skills, those things that people might call you weird or strange for, that's what makes you who you are. That's what makes you a one of one. And the exploration of those things is what really is where the magic happens. And for me, that's where the magic happened for me. So after Hall Pass Tour, I realized that I really had a passion and a joy for communication. I believe in the power of communication and storytelling to change our lives. And when I was working with the students at different schools, we were asking them to come on stage, but I realized they didn't have like a public speaking class or were prepared. And for a lot of you, if your experience in school was like mine, we got asked to present a lot, but there wasn't a place for us to figure out and learn how to communicate and present. And so I started coaching all of the students at Hall Pass Tour. I coached the ambassadors, I coached the students who were on stage, and I was like, oh, I really like this. But it made me start to think about adults, right? And I know you all are problem solvers and solution creators. So it made me start to think about adults. And I thought about all my friends who were in jobs and they were wanting to move up, but they didn't have the communication skills to advocate for themselves. And I was like, oh, let me teach something. Like, let me take my skills and teach something. And if any of you are familiar with the late Dr. Angelou, Dr. Maya Angelou, she says, when you get, give. When you learn, teach. So at the time in New York City, there was a platform called Skillshare that was in person only. And it was a place where you could teach a class, you could take any skill and teach anyone. So I bought like 5 of my homies. They had this class called How to Teach a Skillshare class. We went, and I was talking to my friends. I was like, what should I teach? And they were like, you should teach public speaking. And I'm like, okay. At the time, it was the thread in a lot of my work. When I was working at the contracting firm, my bosses would ask me to proofread their emails and prep for them when they did speeches. On Hall Pass Tour, a lot of what I did was communication coaching. I studied television and radio in college. And so I was like, I can teach a public speaking class. So that's where this cucumber was born. I was like, what's the coolest / corniest title I could come up with for a class that might get people, adults, to come learn about public speaking? So this is Cool Hand Cuke, the cucumber. And the class was called Cool as a Cucumber, How to Master Public Speaking. The first class, I charged $10. I was like, I'm gonna do a 2-hour workshop that teaches people communication skills they need to advocate for themselves at work. First class, of course, all of my homies came. It was sold out. I gave away a lot of free seats. And then something interesting happened. It snowballed. More people started signing up for the class. Within the first 3 months, 200 people had it on their watch list. And I taught it again over 60 times in 2 years. And this led to my next business because people were like, can you come coach me one-on-one? I was like, sure. I just said yes to opportunity. Can you come bring this workshop to my job and train us? I was like, yeah, no, I can do that. Can you do like a training for 100 people? Sure, why not? I knew that education was my background, so I was like, no, I can do that. And this Cool as a Cucumber workshop morphed into a larger company called Oratory Glory, which is the agency that I run now. And I didn't think about it at the time, but I'm like, oh, like communication, duh. But no matter what skills you have at work, whether they're technical, whether they are graphic design, no skill will serve you better than the ability to communicate well. And in all the 20 plus jobs that I've got, I probably got the job for 85% of the things that I interviewed for. Not because I was necessarily the best candidate, but because I knew what I wanted, I knew what value I brought, and most importantly, I knew how to communicate that value. If you can communicate well, it will change your life. How many of you are a middle child or the oldest child or the youngest child? How many of you soar at communication at home because you know how to convince your parents to do stuff that you want them to do? Yeah, persuasion. That's communication. It's a skill. I saw how the hands like, well, I'm not good at convincing people to do stuff. How many of you are good at convincing your teachers to do things for you? Yeah, you're like, oh yeah, I'm actually good at this persuasion thing. That's communication, to be able to advocate for yourself. So I started an agency that was focused on helping creatives of color, LGBTQ creatives, and women develop the skills to communicate better. And on the other hand, I got tired of going to conferences and being the only queer Black woman on the stage, so I started training other speakers. So the agency is all about how do you develop the skills to communicate well, and how do we get more people on stages around the world that look like us? Because again, we are the culture. So I started to study a little bit at Oratory Glory, and I realized all of the big numbers. I did the math. I was like, oh, okay, 86% of employees and executives cite ineffective communication as one of the biggest challenges for workplace failure. I was like, okay, big number, right? 73% of employees say that they don't feel like they have the communication skills to do well at work because they didn't learn them at school. I'm like, okay, those are the big numbers. I'm like, but dollars-wise, how does ineffective communication hurt the pockets? So a company that has over 100,000 employees, guess how much they lose every year off of ineffective communication? Take a guess.
100,000.
More.
1 million.
More.
2 million.
More.
5 million.
More.
8 million.
$62 million a year. Off of ineffective communication between and to employees for a company that has 100,000 people. You were like, what, girl, no. I'm like, for real, 62.4 million. Now for companies who have 100 or less, 420,000, right? Could you imagine what could you do with $420,000? Yeah, like, shoot, y'all wouldn't, don't get me to start making things up, right? So I was like, oh, wow, communication is a real problem. But the biggest challenge lied in people being able to tell the stories about themselves. That's the ground floor. That's where it starts. Being able to communicate your value, who you are, not what you do, but why you do was important. So I went on this 3-year learning and teaching journey. And I was working with an organization called the Future Project. And I was a dream director in a high school in San Francisco. And the role of a dream director is a big, sexy title, but it was you go into a school that's having challenges performing well, you recruit a dream team of students, and you help them transform the culture. Sounds simple, right? Not really. It was one of the hardest jobs I've ever had. But when we were in Dream Academy, my colleague was like, can you help us introduce ourselves? Because we have to gain the trust of administrators, of parents, of community organizations, and of students. I said, cool. I'm the Post-it queen. So I wrote down this I was like, all right, 6 steps. What are the steps? And I started teaching those 6 steps around the world. It started at that company, but I kept iterating the idea. And I was like, what if we had a framework for being able to articulate our passion, our true north? So it became a book, which you all have in your bag, which is like my Oprah moment. You get a book, and you get a book, and you get a book, and you get a book. But the book, we won't go through all 6 steps today, but I will give you a solid one that'll help you in all your conversations today. But the book was like, yo, how can we help people nail it in the stories they tell about themselves so they can connect across difference, so they walk into rooms and feel like they belong, so that they know who they are and can uncover who they are through the process. So I taught it to college students at Oberlin, in a comms course that we teach through Oratory Glory. This is the student crew from the class. I taught it at organizations. This is a comms and marketing team at one of the biggest stores in Canada. It's like Canada's versions of Patagonia. And they were trying to figure out how do they better tell the story that their team is doing so that they can raise more money for the work that they're doing internally, right? I've taught it to audiences like this one. This is TEDx Amsterdam last year. And they asked me to come in and have an audience of 500 people interact with each other using the method. I was like, okay, yeah, we can do that, right? But the challenge was the same for many people. Whether they were 18 or 53, talking about who they were was a challenge to them. So I was like, all right, I've seen the process at work, and I want to share this step with you all today, and then we're going to practice the new introductions again. So what you're seeing on the screen, okay, they come up clear. These are the 4 spaces of discovery. So when you were thinking about that who are you question, the why are you here question, why did you say yes to NESTFlight? I found that in my research, usually when we're telling stories, we pull from these 4 places. We've got our background and interests, that like who are we from, what are we interested in, how does that help define who we are? We've got our values and beliefs, which I like to think of as the things that you would fight for or die for, but you choose to live for them instead. And we'll talk more about each of these spaces. You've got your passions and aspirations, the things that your background, your values have informed and that they make you want to do to add value to the world. And then you've got your skills and your achievements. And I like to think about those as your receipts, and we'll talk about that in a second. But raise your hand if you love talking about your skills and achievements. Raise your hand if it makes you really uncomfortable. Yeah, look around. It's the hardest challenge for a lot of people because you feel like you're bragging, but I'm gonna help you get around that. So we're gonna go through each of these spaces of discovery together. And the idea is that once you can answer questions in these 4 spaces, you'll never have a difficult time introducing yourself again, but it does take some practice. So for this, you're gonna need some pen and paper, and y'all will have an opportunity to share out again. So give everybody a chance to get some pen and paper. And we're gonna start with the background and interest space.
You have a notebook and pen in your bag.
There should be a notebook and pen in your bag because NESTFlight is bomb, and they equipped you with all of the things that you need. Thanks, Jacob. Say that again.
Will we have, will this be like personal, we'll keep it in the notebook, or will we rip it out?
It's personal. It's for you to keep. Yeah, you don't have to rip it out. Great question, thank you. So we're gonna start with background and interests. And I want you to write down the first thing that comes to mind. You don't have to write an essay about this. It's just to get your wheels turning. Because I remember what I heard earlier was like, I wasn't sure what I wanted to say in this space. I'm still figuring out who I am. So I'm gonna give you a few guiding questions for you to marinate on. And as you're in conversations throughout the day, you get to practice what some of this sounds like in conversation. Yes, lights, I can see some of your faces even better, awesome. So the first question, how has where you're from influenced who you are? How has where you're from influenced who you are? I'll give you an example. For me specifically, I told you I grew up in New York City. I'm originally from Harlem, and it's a very community-oriented city. So for me, Harlem has heavily influenced how I care about people, how I show up for my homies. I want everybody to feel love when they're around me. I like that communal environment. That shows up at work too, because I make sure that I make space for everyone on my team to feel like they belong and to feel like they can be individuals. So how has where you're from influenced who you are? Because I have a feeling a lot of you have pride in where you come from. And take another 15 seconds. It's okay if you don't finish your thought, because you can come back to this. But how has where you're from influenced who you are? The second question is a little easier. What are some of your hobbies and interests? Write them all down. Crossbow, hula hooping, eating, cooking. Skydiving is one of my interests. I love to be in the sky. It makes me feel like I am as close to God as possible. I love basketball, though I haven't played in quite some time. Astrology is a hobby of mine. I nerd out about the cosmos. I'm a Virgo, if there are any Virgos in the house. Who is my Virgo? Hey, Virgo, hey. But as you're thinking about those hobbies and interests, also think about, like, are these things that you want to be exploring at work? I know I can't skydive at work, but, you know. Music is a hobby and an interest for me. Bless you. We'll move to the next question. What piqued your curiosity in them? What piqued your curiosity in those hobbies and interests? I ask that because there's always a story behind a story, right? Like, we're not just interested in food because, like, a French fry just, like, emerged one day, right? Sometimes we're interested in food, for me, because, did a French fry emerge one day for you? Oh, okay. I'm interested in food specifically because food is the fabric of my family. I come from a big family. My mom is one of 12. My dad is one of 14. And so when we come together, it's usually over food. And culturally, it's just so important to me and my family to break bread together, to break bread with friends. I break bread with my team, right? So what piqued your curiosity in them? And we'll take another 10 seconds because I feel like y'all know where this is going. And you can come back to this again. Let's pivot to values and beliefs. And I want y'all to really take some time to think about this first question. What core values and beliefs do you live by? Kindness is a value to me. Always be kind. Whether I'm in conversation with the janitor or the CEO, I'm kind to everyone I encounter. I was having a conversation with Antonia this morning, and we talked about kindness. It's free. It costs you nothing to be kind to someone. Especially with all the madness happening in the world, the least we can do is be kind to each other. I'm sure it's easy to guess then another core value of mine is unconditional love. If my heart is not in it, if I'm not passionate about it, I say no to the thing. Freedom is another core value to me. And for me, freedom means the ability to be fully creatively self-expressed, which is a challenging place to get to sometimes. But freedom of expression is a value to me. But what core values and beliefs do you live by? And that can be loyalty, like don't let the homies down. That can be like honor your word, right? I have a homegirl who always says, where is your word when it's not in your mouth? And I'm like, oh, girl, don't hold me accountable like that, right? But that's real. So what do you value? Think about your family values too. Think about the friends that you've chosen, the circles that you're in. What are the things that you live by, the values and beliefs that you live by? The second question is, why are these things important to you? Take a minute to consider, why are these things important to you? Freedom is really important to me because I'm the middle child of 5, and I grew up in a family where both of my parents struggled with drug addiction. So I watched them be pretty much slaves to their addictions. And that was something that I knew that I didn't want for myself. And so freedom to me was like, no, I have to get free from whatever demons might hold me back from my full capacity. Because my parents are both incredibly talented people, but I watched the struggle with their addiction stifle how powerful, how amazing they could be in the world. So freedom is really, really important to me. Community is also a really important value to me because for a long time, I tried to do everything by myself. Raise your hand if you try to do everything alone. You don't ask for help. I don't need no help. I got this. You're not gonna let me down. I got me. I'm not gonna let me down, right? But community is so important to me because we can go so much further together. I know that now, after I've had a lot of hard challenges trying to do everything by myself. So the first question you got was, what core values and beliefs do you live by? And why are these things important to you? And you'll probably start to see some connection to the background and interests from this one already. The next question, and this is sometimes hard to answer, are your current endeavors in alignment with your values and beliefs? And by that I mean, are you working a job? Are you going to a school? Are you hanging with a crew that doesn't sync up with your values and beliefs? That's not a judgment question, that's a self-analysis kind of question. Like, oh, actually I'm outgrowing you, or I'm outgrowing this situation, or this isn't the right fit for me. I might have to let this go. I like to think that in my work life and my personal life, which I'm learning how to integrate, I'm always in alignment with my values and beliefs. And if I'm not, I have a community of friends who have no problem calling me out. Holley, that's not what you said you were gonna do. Oh, my bad, okay. Don't come for me like that, but come for me like that, but don't come for me like that, you know? And if they are in alignment, how? How are these things in alignment for you? Excuse me. All right, we're gonna switch to the third space, passions and aspirations. This is the really fun part, where you get to dream out loud on paper. What are some of your passions and aspirations? It doesn't matter how big or small you think they are. One of my aspirations is to start a school. Like any X-Men fans here? Okay, like a school, like, imagine like Professor X school for the gifted, and like Digital Nest meets like Stanford D school. Wow, right? So that's a big aspiration. It's not happening tomorrow, but it's an aspiration. One of my passions is music. I want to create a multimedia project around music next year. One of my passions is fashion. I'm working on creating my first collection for 2020. Bless you. Another passion is food. My partner and I are working to buy a farm in North Carolina right now. As you can see, I like to set ridiculously ambitious goals and then see what happens. Strategically, though, right? So what are some of your passions and aspirations? One of them could be graduate. One of them could be get into the school of my dreams. One of them could be walk away from NESTFlight with a job offer. Hint, hint, for you companies that are here in the building today. How are you pursuing them now is the next question. How are you pursuing those passions now? And I want to be very clear, because sometimes people think that action has to be tangible, that you have to have something to show for it if you can be in action. And we live in a social media society now where it's like, if you're not posting it, it didn't happen. And that's not true, right? Because pursuit sometimes looks like, I'm doing the research on schools. That's pursuit. I'm reading this book about XYZ. That is pursuit. I'm clearing my life from some folks who I gotta let go of. That's pursuit, right? Because when you clear out, you make room for. So how are you pursuing some of those passions and aspirations now? And this is my favorite question from this circle. If not, what's stopping you? This is actually not my favorite question. I hate this question, because this is like the self-reflective question. And 9 times out of 10, when I get to this what's stopping you question, it's usually me. It's usually me. I'm like, no, I don't need to start that music project. I'm gonna just sit on these ideas, and like next February is when I'm gonna start it. And I'll keep pushing the date back. Nah, February's cold. Let me just in May, I'm gonna do it. And I'm like, oh, it's May already? We can do it in September. And the thing just gets backburnered. And that's just like one way that I can self-sabotage some of my projects, right? But that what's stopping you question is a great moment to check in and be like, is it me? Or is there a barrier in the way? And usually, whether you have few resources or a ton of them, you can make gold out of what might seem like lead to you. So if not, what's stopping you? And we can talk more about that later. Now we're gonna head to the final circle. And I want y'all to raise your hands again if you were saying you're not really feeling the idea of talking about your skills and achievements in conversations. Raise your hand if that was you. It's okay, don't be shy. I love how people are like, not me, but me. Your skills and achievements are like when you go to the store. Let me take the first question away, because I love how y'all ready to write it down. That's good. When you go to the store and you buy something, you pay, what do they give you? A what? A receipt, right? I got a bunch of receipts in my pocket from things that I buy. I keep all my receipts because, I told y'all I'm a Virgo, and because I like to keep records of all the things, right? I have a ton of receipts in my pockets. The next time you are feeling uncomfortable about talking about your skills and achievements, I want you to think about it as a receipt. It is the proof of all your background and interests, of your values and beliefs, of your passions and aspirations. It's the proof that you're actually doing the work to make those things happen. Would you go to a dentist if he didn't have receipts that he was licensed to be a dentist? Would you go to a surgeon who didn't have receipts? No, I got you, bro, I can do it. Can you? Show me the proof. But there's a difference, right? Because there are some people who are pretty arrogant about how they talk about their receipts, right? And I know we all know at least one person who's like, yeah, I've done this. Here's my scroll of accomplishments, right? But there's a way to introduce them in conversation so that they tie into other things you're talking about, right? Like, I'm not just gonna be like, I own 80 horses. I don't. But I'm not just gonna come out of nowhere and tell you about all the things that I own or that I have. So we're going to go through these questions around your skills and achievements, and then we're going to talk about how you can start to bring the story together in your conversations. So the first question is, what skills and talents do you bring to the table? And I want you to go ham on this list. What skills and talents do you bring to the table? I want you to think about jobs that you've had. I want you to think about in your family unit, no matter how your family unit is set up. I want you to think about your friend circle. What skills and talents do you bring to the table? And another way to think about this is, what's the thing that people count on you for? You're the homie in your crew that's always gonna bring the snacks when y'all go to the movies because you know you're not paying for concession? Are you that homie? Are you the person in the group that's going to keep everything on time because you know sometimes y'all run over? Are you the person who's on top of the follow-up and is making sure an email gets sent out and the thing gets handled? Are you the person on the team when y'all are down by 20, you can rally everybody and get them together? Those are skills and talents. So I want y'all to think really intentionally about what are the skills and talents that you bring to the table. Resourcefulness is a talent. You give me 2 marshmallows and 2 matchsticks and I'll build a house. I won't, but I know some people who might get their MacGyver on and figure it out, right? What are the skills and talents you bring to the table? Second question, what are you most proud of completing or starting this year? What are you most proud of completing or starting this year? My oldest niece, who just turned 21 this year, loves to knit. So for her graduation gift, when I was traveling in Amsterdam, I just bought a bunch of knitting stuff and mailed it to her. She made hats, scarves. She just made everything through the yarn. And I'm like, I don't even know how to crochet. Couldn't crochet to save my life. But it's a skill of hers, and it's a thing she started or completed. So what's one thing? And I would love for somebody to yell one of those things out for me. What's one thing you've completed or started this year that you're proud of? Oh, wait, high school? Yes. And someone said building a what? Laser. You built a laser? You're building a laser. Wow. Did some of those things end up on your skills and talents list? You can build a laser? Damn, I need to come holler at some of y'all after this. Okay, anyone else? Yep.
Having my first art show.
You had your first art show. That's amazing. Anyone else?
Learning how to code.
You're learning how to code. Awesome. Y'all too? Y'all too? Learning how to code also? I like that.
Designing the layout for my college paper.
Oh, okay. Y'all have things that are happening, right? And that's such an important thing to remember. You decide what a skill and an achievement is for you. It's not for someone else to decide. It's for you to own and to claim. So we've got a couple things that y'all are most proud of starting or completing this year. How about in the last 3 years? Just brain dump some stuff. I got accepted to college, got my first gig. I say for me in the last 3 years, I got my first book published. I moved cross country again from the Bay Area to North Carolina this time. I got a new dog, which was terrifying because we already had one dog and I was like, I don't know if I can be a dog mom twice. Dogs are hard work. Secured a partnership with one of my favorite brands that we're announcing next year. Started a podcast. And keep this list going. I like how some of your arms are like, I got mad stuff that I'm proud of. Why are you proud of these things? That's the next question, why? And I think that's the challenge that most people have when they get crazy talking about all their accomplishments is they're not telling you why they're proud of that thing. I'm proud of running a storytelling and speaker collective because I grew up super shy. You couldn't pay me to stand in front of a group of people before. And now I'm able to make a living helping other people share their stories and feel confident and comfortable being who they are. That's really important to me. So I'm gonna pause y'all there so we can do the fun part of practicing. But you'll see these spaces of discovery again, right? So when people are like, tell me about yourself, who are you, what do you do? You can pull from these spaces. You've got your background and interests, your values and beliefs, your passions and aspirations, and your skills and achievements. And the idea, now that you've brain dumped some things, is that you can pull from each of these spaces to respond. And we're gonna practice it in a second. But like, let's take me, for example. If someone's like, who are you? I'm like, growing up in Harlem, I learned the value of community, of speaking up for what you need, and I'm really passionate about using storytelling as a mechanism to change the world. So I aspire to create a school that teaches people those skills, but right now I'm actually running an agency that helps creatives and people who are interested in speaking gain more access to global stages, right? I've told you about some of my background and interests, where I'm from. I've told you about what I value and believe about storytelling. I've told you about my passions and aspirations, and I've told you about my skills and achievements without stunting on you, but I told you that I have receipts for this work. So we're gonna come back to this question, the one that you all were so excited about, and I would love, before we wrap, to have two volunteers come to the stage. I'm gonna set the timer for your 60 seconds. Yes, yes. I'm gonna set the timer for your 60 seconds. I'm excited because people are already raising their hands. I'm gonna set the timer for your 60 seconds, and based on the spaces of discovery that you toggled through, you're gonna share your new intro with us. So I have one taker. Anyone else? I had this gentleman who's learning coding, who's like, you got me? Yeah, come on up. Yep. Yeah, come on up. We got two. Anyone else? Oh yeah, come on up. How much time do we have left, Antonia?
About 7 minutes.
Awesome. Yes.
All right, there you go. Thanks.
We got 1, 2. We got a mic ready. I love how y'all like, this is not what I came here for today, but okay. Anybody else want to give it a shot? Okay. It's cool. I'm gonna make it real interesting for y'all, and we're gonna do some impromptu stuff. Okay, I love this. So all throughout today, you are gonna get an opportunity to connect with people who you've never met before. And a lot of times we think about relationships as transactional, but a relationship is an opportunity to build a long-lasting moment with someone, right? Like Jacob and I met last year. So sometimes people are looking for exchange, like I met you, I want the job right now. But like, whoa, decisions don't happen that fast always, right? Jacob and I have been talking for a year before this manifested. So it takes time. And I know that there's much more that we'll have the opportunity to do together. So an introduction plants a seed. I want you to think about it as, because I love food, an appetizer, right? What could you say in 60 seconds that makes someone want to continue the conversation with you? That makes them want to move to the entree, to stay for dessert, to figure out what's next for them. So you'll hear from these gentlemen with their 60-second intros. I will time you. I'll hold up a 3 when you've got 30 seconds and a fist when your time has elapsed. You tell me when to go.
All right. Let's go.
Like that.
My name is Kyle, Ethan Ross. I've always gone by Ethan. When I got to California, I had to not go to college right away, had to go into work so my parents would stop being homeless. They could finally get a place to live in, along with my little brother. And this is kind of the culmination of me working hard for the past 5-6 years. I finally got back into college. I'm doing stuff that I want to be able to do. The basic thing is that, this is it. This is kind of coming into the home stretch. I've put so much work now that I'm an honors student. I'm going to be able to transfer to pretty much wherever I want to go. And the big thing that encouraged me to come to NESTFlight is that it's a team building workshop, and it really helps out with getting skills to be able to work with other people. Because I want to work in film, I want to work in television, That's kind of like the big thing. You got to have electrical, lighting, sound, picture, photography. You got to send people to go out and say, hey, where do we need to take a photo? Where do we want to shoot? That's going to be it.
Awesome. Cool.
So hi, my name is Dennis Ignacio. I am the son of two immigrant parents from the Philippines. They immigrated from the Philippines in the early 1990s, and they taught me something as a child. They taught me to find something passionate in your life. For my dad, it's to be passionate about his kids. For my mom, it was to be passionate about her cooking, even though it's not that good all the time. But they taught me to find something passionate in life. And in my life, I've been passionate about many things. I've been passionate about tennis. I helped lead my team to tennis. I was a tennis captain, and I led them to the division title. But as I transitioned to college, finally, I'm the first generation student in my entire family in its lineage to ever go to college. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to CSUMB, and I find immense pleasure and satisfaction to the fact that as I have had many passions in my life, so has my parents, so has my brothers, and so has my sister. But I have found another passion within CSUMB and going to college, and it's to be a software engineer, and it's a new passion I developed. I'm currently learning coding, and I may not be the best at it, but I'm for sure definitely passionate and trying to practice every day. And the reason why I'm here today at NESTFlight is because I found another passion, and it's to connect with other like-minded people who are passionate about their skills and interests and to develop as a person as well.
You look ready, man. You look like you're ready for action.
Oh, no, I'm not. I'm ready.
Go.
My name is Enrique Pesquera Mosqueda, and I'm in the CSN3 program. I don't know if you guys know about it, but it's 3 years bachelor's degree program for computer science. And, you know, I'm excited about this season because it's internship season. And other than looking for an opportunity, it's like really a test to like see how far I've grown. And, you know, why did I say yes to NESTFlight? It's because, you know, I believe in, you know, building social values in like my community and being bold, I guess, and putting myself in uncomfortable situations. And so yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool. Thank you. You hold on to that. Speaking of uncomfortable situations, Enrique, it was Enrique, right?
Yeah.
Can you hold that microphone? Can you bring it to someone in the crowd, a woman who you would like to hear from? Don't worry, you won't have to come up on stage.
Oh, no.
But I love how people are like looking away from Enrique now. Like,
I think I'm gonna give it somewhere right here.
okay. Oh, you're coming up. Okay, cool. Yes. Let me sit back down.
Hi, everybody. I'm Yana. I'm from Russia. Back to Russia, I had run my own real estate business. But when I changed a country, I said myself, it's a good opportunity to change everything in my life. And I start to think, what do I like to do? I'm crazy about math. That's why I decided to do computer science. And I came to the college and I became a student, but I'm 40. Anyway, I decided to transfer all my experience into this field. And I'm really proud about myself because my big achievement for this semester, I became a tutor. It's in my own language, it's really easy to me to do, but in English, it's kind of challenging. Mm-hmm. But what I do for whole my life, I always do something challenging to me. That's how I grow. That's why I'm here, because I think it's challenging a little bit for me, this event, and also it's opportunity for me, and I never would say no to opportunities. Thank you.
Anybody else want to go? I'm looking away. The ladies are like, get out of my face, okay? That was awesome, thank you. Now you see, like, those 4 spaces, you can do a lot with those 4 spaces, and 60 seconds is a long time. So thank you to everybody who was like courageous enough to just give it a try. A big part of like work and being in the world of work is just throwing yourself outside of your comfort zone and seeing what sticks. Important thing to remember is, honestly, y'all, nobody knows what the hell they're doing, right? Like you get to a new place and you're like, everybody's got it figured out. No one knows what the hell they're doing. Ask your parents. Ask your colleagues, ask your friends. You all have a friend who like once a week is like, I have no idea what I'm doing, right? We're figuring it out, and that requires a lot of courage. Even in my work, I don't need to know what I'm doing, I need to know why I'm doing, and that's enough for me, right? And the rest of the pieces bring themselves together that way. And that's self-actualization, right? That process of growing into who we are, of exploring the depths of our passions and our perks, of asking companies that we work with to create space for us to do those things, of saying yes to opportunities that allow us to do that. And that leads to communal actualization. As you saw, these 3 gentlemen came up on stage, you all automatically supported them. They're being able to make connections now. When someone mentioned coding, 3 other people yelled out coding, right? That's how we create connections. And if we aren't willing to share our stories now, there are tons of people waiting to tell their own version of our stories for us. And that's not the wave, because again, we are the culture, right? So there's no greater moment than now to become who you are. This is an amazing opportunity to connect with hundreds of students like you, employers who want to work with students like you, to build tribe, to build community, to continue to grow. And I want you to use this opportunity today to do more of that, to grow, to be okay with failing and getting it wrong, because that's what leads to the process of like landing right where you're supposed to be. And this is one of my favorite quotes: when I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I'm afraid. So I'll leave y'all with that, and I will be in the opportunity hall throughout the day to connect with y'all. Please come talk to me. I want to hear your intros. I'm happy to sign your book if you have your copy with you. And enjoy the rest of the NESTFlight conference.